To the Romans, barbarian meant anyone outside their world, uncivilized, chaotic, and fundamentally different. The word itself, borrowed from the Greeks, mocked foreign speech as barbar, a sound of incomprehension and exclusion. Romans saw themselves as the height of civilization, city dwellers, lawmakers, builders of aqueducts and temples. Barbarians, in contrast, were painted as wild, tribal, and lawless, an image that served Roman propaganda well. Yet the reality was far more complex. The so-called barbarians, Gauls, Germans, Goths, and others, had their own rich cultures and political systems. This stark division justified Roman wars as a battle between order and chaos, civilization and savagery. Roman art and literature reinforced the stereotype. Strong but doomed warriors, always falling before Rome's destiny. Over time, the line blurred. Many barbarians joined the Roman army, settled Roman lands, and even rose to power. Still, the myth of the barbarian other unified Romans and rationalized endless expansion and defense. The concept endured, shaping Roman identity and policy for centuries. Rome's fear of barbarians was rooted in trauma, most notably the sack of Rome by the Gauls in 390 BC. This memory haunted Roman policy, fueling a doctrine of preemptive aggression. Rome pushed its frontiers outward, building forts and walls to keep chaos at bay. Soldiers on the limes lived in constant tension, defending civilization from perceived threats. The idea of a just war became elastic. Striking first was seen as necessary defense. Ironically, Roman aggression often provoked the very resistance it feared, creating a cycle of violence. Attacks on tribes bred new enemies who then united against Rome, confirming Roman suspicions. This self-fulfilling prophecy drove centuries of expansion as each new conquest created another vulnerable border. The result? A vast empire in perpetual conflict, always seeking security but never truly safe. Fear, more than anything, kept the Roman war machine in motion. Roman wars against barbarians were fueled by ambition as much as fear. For Roman elites, conquest meant glory, wealth, and political power. Triumphs made careers. Generals like Caesar and Trajan built fortunes and reputations on foreign battlefields. Conquest brought plunder, slaves, and resources to feed Rome's insatiable appetite. The ideology of imperium sine fine, empire without end, gave divine sanction to endless expansion. The professional army, loyal to its generals, needed constant campaigns to stay paid and rewarded. Peace risked mutiny. War kept the legions loyal and the elite powerful. Economic greed, personal ambition, and a sense of destiny all merged to drive Rome's relentless advance. The result, a society where war was not just policy but a way of life. Caesar's conquest of Gaul is a textbook example of Roman motives in action. Gaul was a patchwork of tribes, not a unified threat, but Caesar saw opportunity for glory and wealth. He provoked conflicts, claimed defensive necessity, and waged brutal war, then spun it as Roman heroism. The result, millions dead or enslaved, a new province for Rome, and Caesar's rise to power. Centuries later, the Goths, fleeing the Huns, sought refuge inside the empire. Roman officials exploited and abused them, sparking a desperate rebellion. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD shattered Roman invincibility, an emperor killed, an army destroyed. The Goths were not invaders, but mistreated refugees turned enemies. Adrianople marked a turning point. Barbarians were now a force within Rome, not just beyond its borders. Roman arrogance and cruelty had turned potential allies into existential threats. Rome was not always the aggressor. In its later years, it fought desperately to survive. The empire's vast borders became impossible to defend, especially during the crisis of the 3rd century. Civil war, economic collapse, and plague left Rome vulnerable to relentless raids and invasions. Germanic and Gothic groups broke through frontiers, sometimes reaching the heart of the empire. The construction of the Aurelian walls around Rome symbolized this new era of fear and defense. Emperors became soldier kings, fighting to reclaim lost ground and restore order. Rome shifted to defense-in-depth forts, mobile armies, and diplomacy replaced conquest. Barbarians were hired as allies and soldiers, blurring the line between Roman and outsider. The empire was no longer expanding, it was struggling to hold itself together. Rome justified its wars as a civilizing mission, bringing Romanitas or Roman culture to the world. Conquest meant roads, cities, law, and Latin imposed on conquered peoples. Local elites often adopted Roman ways to keep their status, blending cultures for survival. Tacitus noted that what Romans called civilization was for many a form of subtle enslavement. Romanization brought real benefits: peace, infrastructure, economic growth, but at the cost of local traditions. Indigenous languages and religions faded, replaced by a dominant Roman identity. This ideology let Rome frame conquest as benevolence, masking the harsh realities of imperial rule. The civilizing mission became a powerful tool for control and assimilation. Centuries of conflict between Rome and the barbarians reshaped Europe. Roman conquest erased old languages and redrew cultural boundaries. Gaul became Latin, not Celtic. The Rhine and Danube became lasting divides between Latin and Germanic worlds. Rome's reliance on barbarian soldiers transformed its own army and politics. By the 5th century, generals and even rulers were often of barbarian descent. The fall of the Western Empire was gradual, a shift from Roman to barbarian kings, not a sudden collapse. These new rulers preserved much of Roman culture, blending it with their own traditions. The result was a hybrid world,